Bienvenidas to Latina Literati. If you enjoy wonderful places, great books, interesting people from past and present, then this is the channel for you. Today we're going to talk about Dorado, Puerto Rico. This Dorado video is dedicated to a wonderful aunt that I have that lives in Dorado and to my cousins. Los quiero mucho y les dedico este video. Muchos besos. Dorado, Puerto Rico was founded in about 1849, although the area was known as Dorado for a long time. It was called that because of the sand shimmering as the sun set in a golden hues. Dorado in Spanish means golden. I'm on the beach, but not Dorado Beach. Describing to you the history of Dorado. Dorado is snuggled in between Toa Alta and Toa Bajo. And the whole area was inhabited by Taino groups, what is now called the Toa River area. And colonial records even show that Juan Ponce de Leon, on his quest to find the fountain of youth, arrived in what is now Dorado, looking up and down the river for that fountain of youth before going on to find himself in Florida in about 1513. The local Taino chief came to an agreement with the Spanish, so that meant that all of the Taino chieftains were allowed to participate in the encomienda system. And what that means is that the Spanish just divided up the lands and gave people charge for their economic activities. And so they introduced mining and agriculture, but as you can imagine, the indigenous people did not want to be enslaved, and so that didn't really work. And eventually enslaved peoples were brought from Africa, and sugar was introduced to the area as well. Even today, you can still see herds of cattle around Dorado in the outskirts, in pastures, grazing. Much of the milk that's produced in that area of Puerto Rico is in the area of Dorado. It's a very rich area. It's an area that agriculturally you can see how it would have a long trajectory of a very fertile land. Over the next several hundred years, there were hurricanes that ravished the area, and one of note was called Santa Ana, and so there were a lot of buildings that were built that were destroyed. So it was not an easy place for that reason. When Spain gives the islands to the United States invades, and all of the lands that had belonged to Spain and the Spanish are then transferred to U.S. investors. And so investors from the United States start buying up land all over the island, but especially in this area of Dorado. Over the 100 or so years, let's say the 1950s, the last of the agricultural and sugar cane has just come to an end, and about 1,700 acres are purchased by Lawrence Rockefeller. And he is the grandson of John D. Rockefeller. And he has a vision. He wants to build a golf resort and a nature preserve on that northern coast of Dorado. And as it happens, my grandfather was charged with overseeing the project. So the golf course is built, and the first of the Dorado Literati arrive. And so you have people like Mickey Mantle, and you have people like Ava Gardner, and you have movie stars and sports figures, and you have the Kennedys, and you have the Bushes, and you have people from politics come to enjoy the beauty of the golf course. The instructions were that no building was to be built higher than the nearest palm tree, so it kept the buildings relatively uniform, and they tried to preserve some of the natural seascape and things so that it's quite beautiful. So originally there were 2 small golf courses, and that has since developed into many, many more. The famous golfer Chichi Rodriguez was in charge for a while. There have been, I think, 8 world championships of golf held there and many, many tournaments. So the Dorado Beach Golf Club has become kind of one of the places to golf in the world. And over the years, obviously, there's been many, many gated communities built, and it has become kind of the most affluent area of Puerto Rico, with many of the crypto investors finding haven in this paradise. So it has a state-of-the-art medical facilities, just beautiful medical facilities, and all of the amenities that you would want, the infrastructure that you would want in a beautiful piece of paradise. So I thought it'd be interesting to talk about why this is such a paradise for investors, and just give you 3 reasons why it's a tax haven for people who don't want to pay taxes. And that's why you move to Puerto Rico. So I thought I would touch upon the 3 points of why it's considered a Caribbean tax haven. The first and foremost is there is no federal income tax. If you live there, you can't vote for president, and you have no congressional representation, but you also don't pay federal taxes. And more importantly, you don't pay any federal capital gains taxes, and you don't pay taxes on the transfer of properties. So all of those are things that investors would find attractive, and that's why some do move to Puerto Rico, and especially Dorado. There are also tax incentives for investors and business people to attract economic activity, and so not just Dorado, but all of Puerto Rico offers a lot of benefits to those who would like to establish businesses. So I thought it was quite interesting. I'm actually going to continue my research in this, because I think that there are opportunities for people in the diaspora, Puerto Ricanos who may want to go back to engage in economic activity and help there. I hope you've enjoyed a little bit of history, a little bit about Dorado, and now on to my book recommendation. And the first book is it's a beautiful book by Jose Andres. He established the World Kitchen, and after the Hurricane Maria, he wrote a book about how to rebuild Puerto Rico 1 meal at a time. And so Jose Andres is from northern Spain and has a worldwide network of volunteers and restaurants that come together whenever there is an emergency to feed people, and they've been feeding people. Millions and millions of meals have been served by, I think it's called the World Central Kitchen, and I'll link it below for you to get more information. The second book is a kind of a travel guide by a couple that have lived in Dorado, and they talk about the perspective of living in Dorado and what's it like living in kind of a U.S. enclave in Dorado. And the third book is for younger people, and it's the story of Ponce de Leon, who he was, and the Taínus that helped him both in the area of Dorado and also in Florida, what he found and what he did not find. He never found the fountain of youth. Thank you for joining us on this journey. And as always, we would love to hear from you. What would you like us to talk about? Please subscribe. If you have a local bookseller, you can get these books from he or her or your local library. If not, we will link them below. So as always, les deseamos mucho salud, mucho cariño y mucho amor. Muchas gracias.